Imagine, just for a second, that you are walking down the street
Mm.
and it is pouring rain.
Oh, man, like one of those sudden storms where you're just instantly soaked.
Exactly. A
Ugh.
total torrential downpour. I don't mean a light drizzle. I mean the sky has just completely opened up without any warning at all.
Right, the worst kind of weather.
Yeah, but to make matters significantly worse, you were on crutches.
Oh, wow. Okay, that is miserable.
Right. Maybe you've got, like, a broken leg or a really bad sprained ankle, and your clothes are just instantly soaked through to the skin.
You're probably shivering, too.
Oh, violently shivering.
Yeah.
And you're awkwardly trying to maneuver these cold, slippery metal crutches on the wet pavement.
That uneven pavement is dangerous when it's wet.
Exactly. It's a completely miserable, helpless situation. You can barely keep your balance. And then suddenly a stranger stops.
Okay.
And they have this massive umbrella. They step directly into your path. They smile warmly, and they just hold the umbrella out over you, offering you shelter.
The total lifeline.
Right. So what do? Because if your immediate, instantaneous, almost reflexive response to that gesture is to plaster a huge fake smile on your face.
Oh, I know this reflex.
Right. You aggressively wave your hand and you say, "Oh, no, thank you. I'm completely fine."
Even while you are literally getting drenched.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even while you are struggling to remain standing. If that is you, then I really need you to lean in and listen closely, because this deep dive is specifically tailored for you.
It really is the ultimate litmus test. I mean, it's that exact scenario, that specific visceral reflex that we are going to be dissecting today.
Because it's so common.
It is incredibly common. We are exploring this really fascinating and honestly often completely hidden psychological landscape.
The mindset of the hard worker, essentially.
Exactly, the overachiever, the hyper-competent individual who is, for all intents and purposes, entirely incapable of asking for help.
Or relying on another human being at all.
Right, and what's wild to me is that they don't even realize they're doing it half the time.
No, they don't. If you wave that umbrella away, you probably think you're just being polite.
Or just, not wanting to be a bother.
Yeah, exactly. But you aren't just being polite. You are operating under this hidden psychological architecture that literally equates receiving help with an existential threat.
It's a massive wall.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
So today we are taking a really profound look into the psychology of loneliness, the mechanics of trust, and the hidden mental blueprints of those who just cannot bring themselves to open up.
We are looking at what happens when independence goes from being a healthy, celebrated trait.
Which it usually is, right?
Right, it's praised. But we're looking at when it turns into an impenetrable, isolating fortress.
So our core objective for this deep dive is actually quite specific. We want to completely dismantle that I'm fine reflex.
We need to figure out the why behind it.
Right. We are going to explore why people who are so incredibly competent actually associate relying on others with this catastrophic sense of defeat.
And we'll look at why, ironically, total despair can become a sort of psychological safe zone.
Which sounds crazy, but it makes so much sense when you unpack it.
It really does. And finally, we are going to explore how someone can fundamentally rewire these deeply ingrained trust blueprints.
So for you listening right now, whether you are the person constantly waving away the umbrella,
Insisting you don't need help.
exactly. Or if you are on the other side of this, maybe you have a fiercely independent friend or a partner or a colleague who leaves you feeling totally confused.
And shutout, usually.
Right, shut out the moment they start struggling.
Yeah.
This conversation is going to completely reframe how you view independence.
It really changes everything about how we understand vulnerability and human connection.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start by looking at that umbrella scenario again.
The physical manifestation of all this.
Yeah, that automatic refusal. Because when I first thought about this, my immediate assumption was just, well, it's pride, right? Or just extreme politeness.
And that is, without a doubt, the most common misconception.
It's not pride.
It is absolutely not merely politeness, and it is certainly not a conscious, calculated decision born of pride in that exact moment.
Really?
Yeah.
It feels so deliberate from the outside.
I know it does, but it's actually an ingrained automatic nervous system response, one that has been built and reinforced over decades.
It's like a reflex, like tapping your knee with a hammer.
Exactly like that. It is a neurological pathway that is deeply, deeply entrenched.
Wow.
And what is so poignant about this dynamic is that this reflex happens most acutely, like most aggressively, when the person is genuinely sick or in severe distress.
Which is the exact opposite of what you'd expect.
Right. Just when they need help the absolute most, the vault door slams shut the hardest.
But wait, if they are genuinely sick, doesn't their body want the help?
Consciously, maybe?
Because it seems like a massive disconnect between the mind and the body. If you read the source material and the accounts of people experiencing this chronic hyperindependence,
Yeah, the personal accounts are really revealing.
they might actually want to rely on someone in that moment. Like they are exhausted, they are shivering in the rain, they desperately want to be taken care of.
They crave it, actually.
Right. But their body physically freezes and the rejection, the I'm fine, really, I've got it, just slips out automatically.
Before their conscious mind can even process the desire for help.
Exactly. It just happens.
Precisely. It bypasses conscious thought entirely. The body acts as a defense mechanism before the mind can even articulate a vulnerability.
Okay, so it's a defense mechanism against what?
Well, you have to look at it through the lens of threat detection.
Threat detection.
To a securely attached person, an umbrella is just an umbrella.
It keeps the rain off.
Right. But to this specific psychological profile, the umbrella is a complex, terrifying interpersonal trap.
Okay, I was trying to wrap my head around this threat detection idea when I was reading the sources, and the best way I can describe it is, well, it's like a psychological autoimmune disorder.
Oh, that's an interesting way to frame it.
You know,
Mhm.
like in a physical autoimmune disorder, the body's immune system gets confused and starts attacking its own healthy cells.
Right, it treats something benign as a pathogen.
Exactly. It treats a friendly intervention, like the person holding the umbrella, as a severe threat to its survival.
That's close, and the autoimmune comparison definitely captures the internal conflict well.
Right.
But I think we need to refine it just a little bit. It's less about the body blindly attacking itself and more about a hypervigilant, completely overworked security system.
Okay, security system. Walk me through that.
It's like having a burglar alarm installed in your house that is so incredibly sensitive, it literally calls in a heavily armed SWAT team when a butterfly lands on the window pane.
Oh, wow. A SWAT team for a butterfly.
Exactly. The system isn't broken per se. It's doing exactly what it was programmed to do, which is to keep intruders out at all costs.
It just has a terribly skewed definition of what constitutes an intruder.
Precisely. It sees a butterfly and screams threat.
I see. So the SWAT team shows up for a butterfly. But I still have a hard time buying the core motivation here.
What do you mean?
To me, and I think to a lot of people listening, pushing someone away in the rain just looks like arrogant pride
Mm.
or coldness.
It definitely reads that way to the person offering the umbrella.
Right, like, I don't need you, I'm completely self-sufficient. How on earth does the psychological research frame that as anything other than a superiority complex?
Because the underlying mechanism completely subverts our usual assumptions. What's fascinating here is that when we look at someone who pushes help away, we automatically think, oh, they're cold.
Or they think they're better than everyone else.
Exactly. But if you really dig into the clinical understanding of these trust blueprints, you find a deeply counterintuitive insight.
Which is?
Refusing help for these specific individuals is actually a twisted, agonizing form of affection.
Affection. Okay, you're going to have to walk me through that.
I know, it sounds crazy.
Pushing someone away in a moment of need as a form of care? That sounds completely contradictory.
I know it does, but consider their internal logic.
Okay, I'm trying.
In their mind, to accept the help is to immediately become a burden.
A burden to the person with the umbrella.
Exactly. They are absolutely terrified of burdening the other person, of making them worry, or of demanding too much of their time, energy, or emotional bandwidth.
So they think they're doing the person a favor.
Yes. They have this core foundational belief that if they show their messy, needy, vulnerable side,
The side that is shivering in the rain on crutches.
right, if they show that side, they will ultimately become a nuisance.
And nobody wants to be a nuisance?
Especially not them,
Hmm.
because they believe if they become a nuisance, they will be disliked and ultimately they will be abandoned.
Oh, wow. So it goes all the way to fear of abandonment.
It always goes back to abandonment. So, by forcing a smile and saying, I'm fine, they genuinely believe they are protecting the other person from their own messiness.
They are managing the relationship by ensuring they are never a drain on it.
Exactly. They are saying, I care about you too much to make my problems your problems.
That is heartbreakingly noble in a very, very dysfunctional, isolating way.
It is entirely dysfunctional, but the intent is incredibly protective.
Protective of the other person.
Yes. They view their own needs as essentially toxic waste, and they refuse to dump that waste into the yard of someone they actually care about.
Man, That actually explained a huge paradox that I've always found baffling about these types of people.
The everyday brightness.
Yes, you see this all the time. These individuals, the ones who absolutely shut down and isolate in a crisis,
Yeah.
they are very often the brightest, most sociable, most engaging people in your everyday life.
Oh, absolutely. They're the life of the party.
Right. They are the ones organizing the office happy hours. They are the ones remembering everyone's birthdays.
They are incredibly high-functioning and warm in social settings.
So how does that work? If they are so terrified of connection, why are they the ones organizing the office party? Why be so extroverted?
Well, it is absolutely not a coincidence that everyday cheerfulness and the extreme isolation during a crisis are a matched set.
Two sides of the same coin.
Exactly. Because the cheerfulness, the intense sociability, it is an unconscious, incredibly thick wall.
Your cheerfulness is a wall.
It is camouflage.
Yeah.
Think about it. It is perfectly designed to keep relationships at a safe, static, manageable distance.
Oh, I see. Because if I am always the fun, bright, helpful one,
If you're always the one giving the advice and bringing the donut,
nobody ever digs deeper.
precisely, nobody ever stops to assume you might be drowning.
The brightness is literally a diversion tactic.
It's a highly effective diversion. It allows them to maintain the illusion of connection without ever requiring actual vulnerability.
It checks the box of I have friends, but there's no actual risk.
Right. It satiates the human need to be part of a group, but on terms they entirely control.
But the psychological analysis we're pulling from makes a very sharp observation here.
It does. It points out that true foundational trust requires the capacity for messiness.
Right. If you are listening to this, and you or a friend cannot comfortably say to each other, hey, I have a terrible headache and I feel awful today, I just need to lie down.
Without feeling an immediate wave of guilt.
Or panic about ruining the mood.
Yeah.
If you can't do that, then the foundational trust in that relationship hasn't actually finished growing.
So despite all the surface-level friendliness,
Despite the hundreds of laughs and the shared lunches and the great group chats.
the deepest root of trust, which is just the ability to be weak in front of someone, is completely absent.
The roots have spread very wide, but they haven't gone deep at all.
That's a perfect way to visualize it.
So if you're the person listening, and you realize you have 100 friends you can easily go to a concert with, but absolutely 0 friends you feel you could call when you are sick in bed.
Then your wall is working perfectly.
Right. The camouflage is doing its job.
But that brings up a really intense question.
Which is,
If pushing people away is this twisted form of affection to protect relationships and avoid being a burden, what happens internally to this person's self-worth if they do accidentally let their guard down?
oh, right. What happens if they are so exhausted that they actually just accept the umbrella?
That is where the real psychological terror begins.
Terror.
Yes. This brings us to the internal economy of the hard worker. And I use the word economy very deliberately
Because it's transactional.
because it is a rigid, unforgiving transactional system.
Okay, explain this economy.
For these individuals, there is a deep-rooted, entirely subconscious belief system operating in the background at all times.
And what's the belief?
The belief is simply this: not being able to do it myself equals losing.
Losing. Wow. It's framed as a competition almost.
It is. Relying on someone else isn't just about getting a bit of assistance. It feels like absolute, undeniable proof of powerlessness.
But who are they competing with? Themselves. The rest of the world.
Both, really. But primarily, it's a desperate competition to justify their own existence.
Justify their existence. That's heavy.
To understand this, we really have to trace it back to how this personality type is formed. These aren't behaviors that just appear out of nowhere when you turn 30.
Right, starts early.
These individuals have built their entire identity, their sense of belonging, and their self-esteem strictly through their hard work.
So they were probably the easy child growing up.
Almost always. They were likely praised in childhood for being fiercely independent. They never needed help with homework. They got the good grades. They never complained.
And they carry that straight into adulthood.
Exactly. They are the employee who stays late, fixes everyone's mistakes, and never asks for an extension.
So if their entire self-worth is tied to output and being the fixer,
Then you holding an umbrella isn't a favor.
it's a direct threat to their identity.
You are threatening the only currency they believe they have.
Because they don't fundamentally believe they possess intrinsic value just for being a human being.
Sadly, no. They don't believe they are loved simply for existing.
They believe, deep down in their bones, that they are kept around by their friends, their family, their employer, because they are useful.
Useful, competent, and strictly low maintenance.
That is the most tragic core belief I can imagine.
It really is.
They believe their membership in the human race is essentially a subscription fee paid for with their competence.
That's a brilliant way to put it, a subscription fee.
And if they stop producing, if they stop being strong, the subscription is canceled.
So when you offer them the umbrella in the rain, you aren't just offering to keep them dry.
Right, you're dragging them into a space where they have zero utility.
You are forcing them to be just a person in need, and to a mind that equates need with worthlessness, that is a terrifying prospect.
Okay, so what exactly is going through their nervous system in that 3-second interaction? Because clearly, it's not just a vague feeling of discomfort.
Oh, no, not at all.
We've talked about how fast that Einstein reflex is. It's a highly structured rapid-fire panic.
Yes.
How does the brain calculate that threat so quickly?
It is a profound sequence of psychological dominoes that fall in a fraction of a millisecond.
Okay, walk me through the dominoes.
The initial trigger is receiving goodwill. You step into their path and offer the umbrella.
Domino 1.
Instantly, the brain registers an overwhelming obligation to feel and express gratitude. Now, we need to pause here because this is where the divergence happens.
Right, because for most people, gratitude is a warm, positive feeling. It feels good to be thankful.
Exactly. Securely attached people experience gratitude as a bonding mechanism.
It brings people closer.
But for the hyper-independent person, the sudden influx of gratitude feels incredibly dangerous.
Why?
Because it doesn't feel like warmth. It feels like a heavy, suffocating debt suddenly being placed on their shoulders.
Not, oh, how nice of you. It's, oh no, I am now in the red. I owe you.
Yes, the ledger has been unbalanced.
That's domino 2.
Right. And that immediate sense of debt triggers the next realization, which is that the relationship dynamic has permanently altered.
How so?
Well, before the umbrella, they were equals. Or, more likely, the hard worker felt they were in the position of strength, because they are usually the one helping others.
They like being the giver.
They need to be the giver. So, by accepting the umbrella, a sudden, violent power shift occurs.
They are now the receiver. They're the needy one.
Yes. The relationship is no longer at that safe, static distance we talked about earlier.
And once that distance is breached, the final alarm bells go off.
The fear of encroachment.
Right. The terrifying obligation to return the favor.
It's instantly coupled with the profound fear that this person who has now crossed the boundary, who has seen them shivering and vulnerable, will assume they have full access to their personal space.
So their mind just spirals.
Completely. The hyper-independent mind goes, if I let you help me with the umbrella today, what will you expect tomorrow?
Will you ask me probing questions about my life?
Will you expect me to cry on your shoulder?
Will you demand a level of emotional intimacy that I am completely unequipped to provide? So the mental math is, accept umbrella, incur debt, lose power, suffer emotional home invasion.
Yes.
No wonder they say I'm fine. The cost of the umbrella is astronomically high.
It is a bankrupting cost in their internal economy. Every interpersonal interaction is viewed through this ledger of indebtedness.
But there is a really key distinction that the clinical observation highlights here, and it's vital we clarify this for the listener.
Definitely.
This rapid calculation of debt, this inability to accept goodwill, it does not mean the person is calculating in a malicious or sociopathic way.
Not at all. They aren't cold.
I think that's hard for people to separate, because if you treat relationships like a ledger, it sounds incredibly transactional and cold.
It sounds that way on paper, but the root cause isn't a lack of warmth. It's a lack of skill.
A lack of skill.
Yes. We often forget that receiving is a skill. It is a learned behavior.
You have to practice it.
It requires practice and a safe environment to develop. If
Yeah.
you grew up in an environment where every gift had hidden strings attached,
Well, that makes sense.
or where showing need was met with a parent's irritation or a caregiver's heavy sigh of exhaustion,
You never develop the psychological muscle to just say thank you and let that be the end of the transaction.
exactly. You are trained to view every gift as a loan with exorbitant interest rates.
So when they reject your umbrella, they aren't rejecting you.
No, they are frantically rejecting the overwhelming complexity they associate with the act of receiving.
Wait, let me make sure I'm wrapping my head around the implications of this.
Okay.
Because if hope and help and human connection are so fraught with anxiety,
Yes.
if receiving a simple umbrella in a rainstorm triggers a massive panic attack about emotional debt and boundary encroachment,
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
right. So then what is the alternative? Logically, if hope is terrifying, then the opposite of hope must serve some sort of psychological function for these people.
That is exactly the question we have to ask.
If they can't live in the light, what are they doing in the dark?
And this takes us into the darkest, but arguably the most fascinating mechanism of this psychology. We are moving into the concept of despair.
Despair.
But not despair as a tragedy, despair as a deliberate utility.
Despair as a utility. That sounds incredibly bleak.
It is bleak, but it is a brilliant survival mechanism if you think about it.
How is it brilliant?
Well, think about a person who repeatedly hopes for support over the course of their life.
Okay, they hope for connection.
They hope they won't have to carry the burden alone. And let's say those hopes are consistently betrayed, ignored, or actively punished over a lifetime.
Which is common for this profile.
Eventually, the pain of that repeated disappointment becomes too great to bear.
You can only get your hopes up so many times before it just breaks you.
Exactly. So the brain does something remarkable. It begins to actively discard hope to protect the organism.
It preemptively kills the hope so the disappointment can't hurt them.
Yes, saying it won't work out anyway or nobody is ever going to help me isn't just someone being a negative, toxic person.
It's not just complaining for the sake of complaining.
No. It is a profound, albeit painful, wisdom born directly from trauma. Psychological frameworks often introduce the concept of despair as a comfortable location.
Okay, I have to stop you there. A comfortable location. Despair.
Bear with me.
How can being miserable possibly be comfortable?
Think about the mechanics of expectation. What actually causes emotional pain?
Being let down.
Right. The gap between what you hope will happen and what actually happens.
The drop.
The drop. If you expect nothing from the world, you can never, ever be disappointed.
That makes a twisted sort of sense.
If you refuse to dream, your dreams can never be crushed. When you lower your expectations to the absolute floor, the absolute bottom becomes a psychological safe zone.
Because you cannot fall any further.
Exactly. The anxiety of the drop is entirely gone because you are already lying flat on the ground.
You never have to brace for impact again.
You're completely insulated from disappointment.
That makes so much sense, even though it's incredibly depressing to think about.
It is heavy.
And it explains a dynamic that I think almost everyone listening has encountered at least once in their life.
The complaining friend.
Yes. We all know someone, a friend, a family member, a coworker, who complains constantly about their miserable situation.
They hate their job or their relationship.
Right. They're just constantly stressed. But when you, as a helpful outsider, point out an open door,
When you offer a clear, logical, easy exit from their misery,
they stubbornly, almost angrily, refuse to walk through it.
they find a million bizarre reasons why your solution won't work.
And from the outside, it is absolutely infuriating. You just want to grab them by the shoulders and say, the door is right there. Just walk out. Why are you choosing to stay here?
It is deeply frustrating to witness, but you have to realize that you are offering them a solution based on your trust blueprint, not theirs.
So what does their blueprint say about the open door?
To understand why they refuse the exit, we have to look at how they perceive the space beyond that door. Walking toward that exit is terrifying to them because they fundamentally lack the imagination for what lies beyond it.
Lack the imagination. What do you mean by that?
If someone is raised in a cold, neglectful, or highly conditional environment without consistent warmth or safety,
Yeah.
they quite literally haven't built a receptacle for warmth in their mind.
Receptive.
They have no mental framework, no historical data to support a life where things actually work out and people are actually reliable.
Oh, wow. It's like trying to explain colors to someone who was born blind. They physically don't have the hardware to process the concept of red or blue.
That's a good starting point, but it's actually much more active than just being blind to it.
More active.
It's more like explaining the concept of a gentle, refreshing breeze to someone who has only ever lived through devastating hurricane-force winds.
Oh, that's a powerful image.
The moment they feel the air start to move, they don't think, oh, how refreshing.
They panic.
They brace for impact. They board up the windows because, in their experience, moving air destroys houses.
Wow. That completely changes how I view those interactions. So when I'm offering a solution or offering kindness, they aren't just being ungrateful.
No, they are bracing for a hurricane.
And they think my kindness is going to destroy them.
Exactly. And this leads to the phenomenon of what we call abnormal warmth.
Abnormal warmth.
For someone whose baseline is chronic loneliness, whose entire nervous system is finely calibrated to survive in harsh isolation.
Suddenly, not being lonely feels highly abnormal.
It feels incredibly suspicious. It sets off every alarm bell in their head.
They look at you being kind to them, and they think, why is this person doing this?
What's the catch?
What are they going to demand from me later? When is the other shoe going to drop?
Exactly. So they stay in the dark because the dark is a known variable.
They are experts at surviving in the dark.
They've mastered it. The light is blinding, it's unpredictable, and it might disappear at any second, leaving them much worse off than before.
Precisely. To step into the light requires the activation of hope.
And we've already established that hope is the single most dangerous, destabilizing emotion they can feel.
So they choose the predictable, manageable misery over the terrifying, chaotic possibility of joy.
It's a calculated choice, even if it's subconscious.
Okay, this paints a really comprehensive, if somewhat devastating picture of this personality.
It does.
We have this hyper-independent person trapped in a self-imposed safe zone of despair, pushing away human connection because the internal ledger of debt and the fear of a hurricane is just too terrifying to manage.
That sums it up perfectly.
But here is where I get stuck.
What's the sticking point?
Humans are biologically social creatures. We are wired for connection.
Absolutely.
We all have emotional weight, and we all need somewhere to put it down.
We do.
If these individuals absolutely refuse to put that weight on their friends, their family, or their partners, where does it go?
That's the million-dollar question.
Does it just sit inside them until they have a physical breakdown?
Often, yes, it does manifest physically. Chronic stress, autoimmune issues, mysterious ailments. The body keeps the score when the mind refuses to speak.
Right.
But psychologically, there is a stunning pattern that emerges among these individuals.
A pattern of where they put the weight.
Yes. When human connection is too fraught, too complex, and too laden with debt, these fiercely independent, profoundly lonely people often look in two very specific directions.
Okay.
They look upwards and they look backwards.
Upwards and backwards. You're talking about religion and history.
Yes.
This was the part of our research for this deep dive that gave me absolute chills.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
You read these accounts of people who are the most closed-off, cynical, isolated individuals.
Yeah.
And yet they have this intensely rich inner life connected to God or to Buddha or to ancient Stoic philosophies.
It's incredibly common.
Why is that the default? Why do they skip over the friend sitting right next to them and go straight to a deity?
Well, if we connect this back to the core concept of the trust blueprint and the economy of indebtedness we discussed earlier.
Okay, the ledger.
Right. The profound appeal of the divine becomes incredibly clear. Let's review. What is the fundamental problem with human relationships for the hyper-independent person?
It's the transaction, the debt,
Yes.
the expectation of a return on investment, the fear that if I cry on your shoulder today, you own a piece of my autonomy tomorrow.
Exactly. Now, consider the concept of the divine.
Okay.
Gods, Buddhas, the universe, they represent the ultimate perfect, non-transactional relationship.
Non-transactional.
They do not demand anything in the immediate, messy, interpersonal sense.
Right, you don't have to buy God a coffee because God listened to your problems on a Tuesday.
Precisely. The divine does not require a return of the favor. They just exist.
They just exist.
And because they are absolute, they allow you to be utterly, completely weak.
You can let the wall down.
You can be pathetic, helpless, messy, weeping, and entirely broken in front of the divine, and there is absolutely no fear of human judgment.
Because God isn't going to roll his eyes.
There is no fear that God is going to suddenly think you are a burden, get annoyed by your tears, and stop returning your calls.
The relationship dynamic does not shift.
Because the divine is a constant. For someone who is terrified of the unpredictable variables of human emotion, the absolute constant of the divine is the only truly safe place to collapse.
That is fascinating. It's a relationship without the risk of abandonment.
Exactly.
But here's where it gets really interesting for me. It's not just religion. It's ancient philosophy, too.
Yes, looking backwards.
You look at the modern resurgence of Stoicism or people obsessing over ancient poetry.
It's everywhere right now.
Why do the writings of Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor from 2 millennia ago, or the meditations of an ancient monk resonate so deeply with a modern overachiever sitting alone in their high-rise apartment in 2026?
It seems like a massive disconnect.
Right. A person who won't even reply to a text message from a friend checking in will spend hours highlighting a book written in antiquity. Why?
Because those ancient texts provide something undeniable: proof of the universality of suffering.
Proof.
When a modern, hyper-isolated person reads a text from 2,000 years ago and recognizes their own exact, highly specific feelings of isolation, despair, and exhaustion perfectly articulated on the page.
It shatters the illusion that their pain is a unique, monstrous defect.
Yes. It proves that they aren't broken, they are just human.
It proves that ancient writers, people who are now revered as wise, great, and foundational to civilization, were also incredibly lonely, despairing, and isolated.
It normalizes the dark.
And in doing so, it provides something that I suspect these individuals have likely never formally received from an actual human being in their entire lives.
Which is,
Permission.
yes, absolute permission.
Permission to just be lonely.
Permission to feel the crushing weight of existence without having to immediately fix it, without having to work hard to overcome it, or hide it behind a bright smile to protect the people around them.
A quote from an ancient philosopher doesn't judge you.
It doesn't offer you an unsolicited exit door.
It doesn't expect you to cheer up so the vibe isn't ruined.
It just sits quietly beside you in the dark across thousands of years and says, I know this place too. I was here.
For a hard worker who has spent their entire life running on a treadmill to outrun their vulnerability, that silent permission is profoundly liberating.
It's the only time they can stop running.
Wow, it really is a perfect closed-loop system of survival.
It is.
They outsource their desperate need for connection to entities, whether gods or ghosts. They cannot possibly be burdened by them. It's brilliant.
It is brilliant from a survival standpoint.
It is still surviving in the dark.
Yes, it is.
It is still a life lived in extreme isolation. So how does the narrative actually change?
The million-dollar question.
If someone is listening to this right now, driving in their car or doing the dishes, and they feel incredibly called out,
I guess sure many do.
if they see themselves in everything we've discussed, the sheer panic of the umbrella, the cozy refuge of despair, the silent reliance on dead philosophers, how do they actually begin to dismantle these walls?
Well, it's not easy.
Because you can't just listen to a deep dive, snap your fingers, and say, okay, cool, I'm cured, I trust people now.
No, you absolutely cannot. And attempting to force it, trying to aggressively tear down a wall that took 30 years to build, will only trigger a massive resurgence of that autoimmune panic response we talked about earlier.
The SWAT team comes back.
Yes, the wall will just get thicker.
So what's the first step?
The first step to dismantling this architecture is simply the act of illumination.
Illumination.
You cannot realize you are sitting in a pitch-black room until someone or something turns on a light.
Right, because as we established earlier, they think their darkness is completely normal.
The hurricane winds are their baseline.
Or worse, they actively gaslight themselves into minimizing their pain.
Oh, they do this constantly.
They think, everyone feels this exhausted. I just need to be more efficient.
Or my loneliness isn't that bad. I'm just being dramatic. Other people have it worse.
They constantly invalidate their own experience of isolation.
Exactly. So the initial change rarely happens with a dramatic movie-style intervention where their friends corner them in a living room and demand they open up and cry.
Oh God, that would be awful for them.
That would be catastrophic. It would feel like the ultimate encroachment.
So how does the light turn on?
The moment of illumination is almost always subtle.
Like what?
It's a kind, unprompted word from a stranger that catches them completely off guard. It's stumbling across a specific book that describes their hidden feelings with terrifying accuracy.
Or maybe listening to something that maps it out.
It might even be an article or a deep dive discussion exactly like this one that suddenly gives them the vocabulary for their invisible prison.
It gives them the words.
Or sometimes it can just be a sudden moment of awe.
Yeah.
Like seeing a profoundly beautiful piece of scenery, a sunset, or a piece of art that creates a tiny crack in their armor, making them pause and realize, wait, have I been holding my breath my entire life?
Is there actually another way to exist?
Exactly. It's the sudden realization of the wall's existence rather than the immediate breaking of the wall.
Yes. Awareness is the absolute prerequisite for change. You cannot heal what you refuse to acknowledge.
That's right.
But once that awareness is there, The actionable advice for moving forward from the source material is brilliant in its restraint and simplicity.
It introduces what we might call the art of micro-receiving.
Micro-receiving, I really, really love that term. How does it work in practice?
It's based on a fundamental truth of human psychology. Opening a heart that took decades of meticulous effort to close is going to take a long time to open safely.
You can't just flip a switch.
You cannot rush the nervous system. The solution is strictly about increasing the frequency of receiving, not the magnitude of the gesture.
Okay, so frequency over magnitude.
You don't jump from refusing a literal umbrella to suddenly calling a new friend at 2 a.m. to unpack your deepest, darkest childhood traumas. That is way too big of a leap.
It's like walking into a gym for the very first time in your life, walking straight over to the 300-pound barbell and trying to deadlift it.
You aren't going to get stronger. You're just going to break your back and never go back to the gym.
That's a perfect analogy.
And if you break your back emotionally, your brain says, see, I told you receiving was dangerous. Let's add another foot of concrete to the wall.
So what's the emotional equivalent of a 1-pound dumbbell?
You have to train the muscle slowly. We can look at very specific, practical, everyday examples of how to do this.
Let's hear them.
Let's say a coworker asks how you are doing on a day when you feel terrible. Your ingrained reflex fires immediately. And before you can stop it, you hear yourself loudly say, I'm fine.
The reflex wins.
Yes, the reflex wins the initial sprint. But here is the micro-receiving part. You don't have to retract the I'm fine. You don't have to suddenly burst into tears and tell them your life story.
That's the 300-pound barbell.
Right. You just practice adding one tiny low-stakes caveat. You say, I'm fine, but actually, maybe I'm just a little tired today.
But maybe I'm a little tired today. It's so incredibly small. It almost feels insignificant.
To a securely attached person, it is insignificant. But for someone wired to hide every trace of vulnerability, admitting to being a little tired is a massive revolutionary victory.
It is a hairline crack in the wall.
Exactly. Or, let's go back to our starting scenario. The umbrella in the rain.
Okay, the torrential downpour.
Let's say it happens. The stranger offers the umbrella, you panic, the anxiety chain reaction hits you like a truck.
You reflexively wave them off, you force a smile, and you say, no, I'm totally fine.
You fail the test.
Right. The moment passes, the stranger shrugs and walks away.
Now, the old instinct would be to beat yourself up or to rationalize why you didn't need it anyway.
I was almost home anyway, right?
Instead, micro-receiving asks you to do something else. As the person is walking away, just practice saying the words thank you out loud to their retreating back.
Just to get the words out of your mouth, even if they can't hear you.
Yes. To build the physical muscle memory of gratitude without the immediate terror of the interpersonal transaction.
Wow.
You are literally training your nervous system, proving to your brain that acknowledging goodwill is not fatal.
You don't need to suddenly trust everyone with your life. You just need to build a tolerance for accepting tiny, microscopic, low-stakes gestures.
You increase the frequency of the reps.
Give me some more examples of these reps.
Let someone hold the elevator door for you without apologizing profusely for making them wait.
Well, that's a good one.
Let a friend buy you a $5 coffee and just say thanks,
Oh.
violently suppressing the urge to immediately say, I'll get it next time, I'll Venmo you right now.
You are slowly, deliberately rewriting the internal ledger. You are proving to your amygdala that you can exist in a state of slight emotional debt, and the world doesn't actually end. The person doesn't attack you.
You don't lose your inherent value just because someone bought you a latte. It is a slow, gentle, incredibly brave desensitization to warmth.
You are stepping out of the hurricane and learning that a breeze is just a breeze.
Beautifully said.
This has been such a profound, eye-opening journey through this topic. I feel like we've completely mapped out a psychological continent that most people, even the people living on it, don't even know exists.
It's an invisible continent.
If we pull all of these threads together, the autoimmune panic, the twisted affection, the economy of debt, the safe zone of despair, and the micro-receiving, what is the ultimate core message we should be taking away from this deep dive?
I think the most vital synthesis is a complete reframing of how we view isolation and hyperindependence.
Reframing it how?
People who choose extreme independence, who physically cannot ask for help, are not weak, they're not broken.
And they are certainly not cold, arrogant, or unfeeling.
No. The clinical reality makes it clear that they are actually incredibly sensitive.
Very sensitive.
They are acutely aware of the emotional weight of the world, and they are easily hurt. And because of that immense sensitivity, they have had to be highly creative in designing incredibly robust psychological armor to survive in a world that early on felt fundamentally unsafe and conditional.
Relying on no one was simply their best, most logical, most effective strategy for survival up to this point.
It kept them alive, it kept them
It
functioning.
was a feature of their survival, not a bug in their personality.
Precisely. But the tragedy is that what served as impenetrable armor in the past inevitably becomes a suffocating prison in the present.
And the process of dismantling that armor, of unlearning the I'm fine reflex, is not a matter of just trying harder.
No, it is a matter of immense, terrifying courage.
And if you are listening to this right now and you've stayed with us through this entire intense deep dive,
Through all the heavy stuff.
yeah, I want to offer a piece of validation that I think is really important. The simple fact that you listened to this conversation all the way through, that you didn't turn it off when it got uncomfortable or hit a little too close to home,
That means something.
it means that a tiny, perhaps microscopic desire to change is already flickering in the corner of your mind.
You are already standing in the room, looking at the wall, realizing you might want to see what's on the other side.
And honestly, for today, that is enough. You don't have to fix your entire trust blueprint by tomorrow morning.
That awareness, that willingness to just listen, is the light turning on in the dark room.
Exactly. So as we wrap up today's deep dive, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought.
Something to think about.
Something to mull over the next time you find yourself in that deeply familiar, panic-inducing situation. Next time someone offers you an umbrella, whether that is a genuine compliment, a small favor at work, or a literal umbrella in a literal rainstorm, I know exactly what your brain is going to do.
It's going to immediately run the numbers.
It's going to consult the ledger. It's going to scream, what will this cost me? What is the debt? How do I escape?
Yes.
But just for a second, try to interrupt that frantic calculation with a completely different question. Try asking yourself, what if this person just genuinely wants to enjoy the feeling of keeping me dry?
That really flips the script on the nature of giving and receiving.
Right. What if your automatic refusal isn't actually protecting them at all? What if, by accepting their help, you aren't burdening them,
Yeah.
but you are actually giving them the gift of being useful, kind, and connected to you?
What if accepting the umbrella is the most generous, affectionate thing you can possibly do?
Think about it. Until next time.